Is this some kind of joke? The TSA agent's voice cut through the crowded security checkpoint like a knife. He stood blocking the elderly man's path, arms crossed over his chest, staring at the worn leather flight jacket with visible contempt. "Sir, this isn't a costume party. You need to remove that jacket and proceed through the scanner, now." Welcome to Veterans Tales. Before we dive into this powerful story of respect, justice, and hidden identity, let us know in the comments which state you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like these deserve to be remembered, hit that subscribe button and help us keep these tales alive. It was 6 in the morning, and the terminal at Ronald Reagan National Airport was just waking to its usual chaotic rhythm. The smell of coffee, fresh pastries, and the sharp scent of antiseptic cleaning products filled the air. The sound of footsteps from incoming passengers, the squeak of luggage wheels, and the constant stream of airline announcements from the speakers merged together like an orchestra. Thomas Harlow, 84 years old, stood apart from this chaos like an island. When he entered through the glass doors of the terminal building, he was in no hurry. His steps were slow but deliberate. The leather jacket on his back was cracked, faded, and patched. The cuffs were worn but impeccably clean. His eyes, clear and steady, weren't even looking at the security agent. His gaze was fixed far away, beyond the gates, where the planes waited. The young agent, wearing a badge that read Chavez, stepped closer. His polished shoes made a sharp sound on the terminal's tile floor. "Sir, this is your final warning. Remove that jacket or I will be forced to detain you under security protocol." The surrounding passengers had begun to stop and stare. Whispers spread. Some had pulled out their phones. This was unexpected drama in their morning routine. An old man facing off against a young agent having a minor authority crisis. A second agent, younger and less patient, approached. "What's going on, Chavez?" "This gentleman," Chavez said, gesturing toward Thomas, "is refusing to comply with procedures. He's refusing to put the jacket through the scanner. He's creating a security risk." The second agent, whose name tag read Rodriguez, looked Thomas up and down. His assessment was swift and dismissive. He saw the old man's worn jacket, his white hair, his silent stance. "Maybe he can't hear," he muttered. "Maybe he's confused. Grandpa, where are you trying to go? Is someone picking you up?" Thomas's voice, when it finally came, carried a low but surprising weight, like stones smoothed by a river. "I'm going to San Diego, to an old friend's funeral." "San Diego," Chavez repeated, as if the words were a joke. "Okay. But before you get there, that jacket needs to go through the scanner. You'll comply with the rules or you won't be going anywhere." Thomas's hand slowly moved to the collar of his jacket. His fingers, old and trembling, caressed the fabric. For a moment, he just touched it, as if the fabric itself were a memory. His eyes, for a brief second, drifted away, to a place, a time, somewhere no one in the terminal could see. On the left sleeve of the jacket, for those who looked carefully, there was a small hole. Round, without clean edges, hidden beneath a patch. It was a bullet hole. From 1971. Just above the Laos border, inside a helicopter. But no one saw it. No one wanted to see it. "This jacket," Thomas said quietly, "doesn't come off." Rodriguez laughed, a short, humorless chuckle. "It doesn't come off? What, is it glued on? Sir, with all due respect, if you're not trying to be funny here, we've got a serious problem." Chavez moved even closer to Thomas. He was now invading his personal space, deliberate and intimidating. "You're old. I understand. Maybe you're having trouble remembering the rules. But this is a federal facility. My job is security. And you, sir, are a security problem." The terminal had now grown almost silent. Other passengers in their own security lines had stopped to watch. A mixed feeling of pity, discomfort, and shame hung in the air. The old man was being humiliated, and no one was intervening. But not everyone was just watching. Inside the security booth, monitoring one of the screens, was a young TSA officer. Her name was Airman First Class Maria Santos, retired from the Air Force Reserve. She'd been watching the exchange all morning, and something felt wrong. Maria wasn't just a TSA officer. She had served 2 tours in Afghanistan. She'd been stationed at Bagram Air Base. She'd seen rockets fall on the base at midnight. She had lost friends. And that's why she recognized the old man's posture. There was something about the old man's stance, the way he absorbed the contempt, never backing down, his eyes still clear and calm. This was the quiet, unbreakable stillness of a true combat veteran. This posture couldn't be imitated. It only existed in those who had seen real war. When Chavez reached out to grab the collar of Thomas's jacket, Maria couldn't wait any longer. She burst out of the booth, walking briskly toward them. "Chavez!" she called out, her voice sharp with authority. "Stop!" Chavez turned, surprised and annoyed. "Santos, this isn't your business. I'm handling this." Maria came to Thomas's side, her eyes focused on the shoulder of the jacket where faded patches lay. Many were worn, unrecognizable, but one was not. A small, brown and gold patch, carefully sewn, its symbol still visible. An eagle, wings spread, standing on a globe. And beneath it, small faded letters, USAF, Air Rescue Service. Maria's heart stopped, her breath caught. She recognized that badge, not just from history books, but from her own training, from stories she'd heard during her service. The Air Rescue Service, men who served in Vietnam, Korea, and before, flying into enemy fire, into mountains, into the ocean to rescue downed pilots. The most dangerous mission, the least recognized heroes. A memory flashed in Maria's mind. She was in Afghanistan, at Bagram. It was a night rocket attack. They were running to the bunkers, but one friend, a young airman, only 22 years old, had been left outside, injured. Everyone entered the bunker, but one man, a pilot in his 50s, a Vietnam veteran, didn't enter the bunker. "That kid's out there," he had said, and he went back. Under the explosions, he went outside. 5 minutes later, he came back, carrying the wounded airman on his back. Both were alive. Maria had never forgotten that day. Real heroes were those who put themselves at risk, and now, in front of her, stood another hero, and two foolish agents were humiliating him. "Chavez," she said, her voice low and urgent, "don't touch that jacket." "What?" Chavez was confused. "Santos, protocol is clear. Do you see that patch?" Maria pointed to it. "That's an air rescue badge, Vietnam era. Chavez, this man isn't just a pilot, he was a rescuer." The surrounding crowd was now completely silent. Everyone heard every word Maria spoke. Rodriguez stepped forward, still skeptical. "So what? It's an old badge. He could have bought it at a garage sale." Maria shot him a sharp look. "As an airman first class, I'm telling you, nobody wore this badge because it looked cool. They earned it, by flying behind enemy lines into disaster to save others." There was now a tremor in Maria's voice. Not just anger, but deep emotional weight. "I served at Bagram, 2 tours, and there, a pilot told me something. Rescue men," he said, "never abandon a mission, because out there's someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother. And this man," Maria pointed at Thomas, "how many people's sons, fathers, brothers did he save? How many families got to see their loved ones again because of him?" Chavez's hand, still near Thomas's collar, hesitated. "But according to the rules," Maria cut him off, her voice now steel. "We're supposed to show respect to veterans, and this man might be a legend." Thomas had stood silent through all of this, but when Maria spoke to him, he turned his head and looked at her. There was a glimmer in his eyes, not gratitude, but deep weariness. He'd fought this battle too many times before. As Thomas's fingers rested on the collar of his jacket, for a moment, the world trembled. The terminal disappeared. The fluorescent lights went out, the sounds of passengers ceased, and suddenly, Thomas was no longer 84 years old, he was 32. Near the Laos border, March 15, 1971, 2:30 p.m. The interior of the UH-1 Huey helicopter was like a furnace. The engine was hot, the metal burning under the sun, and the 4 men inside, pilot, co-pilot, a medic, and Thomas, were drenched in sweat. The radio crackled. A voice, young, panicked, came through. "Mayday, mayday! Black Hawk 2-3 is down. Repeat, we're down. Coordinates?" The voice cut off. Then explosions. Then silence. The pilot, Lieutenant Colonel David Mitchell, gritted his teeth. "Did you get the coordinates?" The co-pilot looked at the GPS screen. "Yes, sir, 5 miles southeast. But, sir, that area is red, enemy controlled." "I know," David said, his voice resolute, "but our men are out there. We're going." Thomas in the back was checking his medical bag. Morphine, bandages, tourniquet, IV. Everything was there, but he knew that sometimes no equipment was enough. Sometimes only luck and prayer were enough. The helicopter changed direction rapidly. The engine roared. The rotor blades whipped the air. The jungle below became a blurred green smear. 10 minutes later, they reached the crash site. David brought the helicopter over the pit. Below, through the trees, the wreckage of a helicopter could be seen. Smoke was rising, flames were visible. "There," the co-pilot pointed. "There's a clearing. We can land." But just as the helicopter began to descend, the world exploded. An RPG missile hit the helicopter's tail. The explosion deafened Thomas's ears. The helicopter spun, lost control. David was trying to hold the control stick with all his strength. "We're going down! We're going down!" the co-pilot shouted. Thomas gripped his seat. The world was spinning wildly. Trees, sky, trees, sky. Then, impact. Metal twisted, glass shattered. Thomas was thrown from his seat, hit his head on something, and then, darkness. A few minutes later, Thomas woke up. His head was throbbing, his ear was ringing. He tasted blood in his mouth. But he was alive. He looked around. The helicopter was lying on its side. The windshield was shattered. There was smoke inside. And blood. So much blood. The pilot, David, was still in his seat but trapped. His leg was crushed. His face was pale. His eyes were open but unfocused. "Thomas," he whispered. "Thomas, I can't feel my leg." Thomas, ignoring the pain, crawled toward David. He pulled his medical bag, took out a tourniquet. He started working. His hands were covered in blood and trembling, but he didn't stop. He wouldn't stop. Because David wasn't just a pilot. He was a friend, a brother. But outside, sounds began to come. Bushes rustled, footsteps, voices, the enemy. Thomas looked into David's eyes. "I'm getting you out of here," he said. "I swear." David gave a weak smile. "I know, Ghost. You always do." Ghost, the code name. Because Thomas would come like a ghost and disappear after rescuing lost pilots. After bandaging David's leg, Thomas pulled out a small radio from his pocket. It was broken, but maybe it could still send a signal. "This is Ghost," he said into the radio. "I'm at the Black Hawk 2-3 crash site. 1 wounded. Need immediate evac. Enemy approaching." Static. Then a voice. "Ghost, this is home base. Your position is under enemy control. Evac not possible at this time. Wait for nightfall." Nightfall. 8 hours away. Thomas looked at David. "Can you hold on?" David smiled. "With you?" "Always." When night fell, enemy patrol approached. Thomas had hidden David in the shadow of the wreckage. He himself was a few meters away, waiting silently. He had only a knife in his hand. Enemy soldiers approached the wreck with flashlights. 3 men. Their weapons were ready. Thomas held his breath, remained motionless, and just as one of the soldiers looked at the wreckage, Thomas emerged from the shadows, silent, deadly. The knife flashed in the darkness. A few seconds later, it was over. 3 enemy soldiers lay on the ground. Thomas was unharmed, but his hands had blood on them. That night when the rescue helicopter came, Thomas had David on his shoulder, carrying him to the clearing. The helicopter landed. Rope was thrown down, but just as he was securing David to the helicopter, a final enemy soldier fired from the darkness. The bullet grazed Thomas's arm. It went through the left sleeve of the jacket. The pain was like lightning. But Thomas didn't stop. He waited until David was pulled up, and then he climbed up himself. In the helicopter, David saw the wound on Thomas's arm. "You were hit." Thomas shrugged. "It's happened before," and on the left sleeve of the jacket there was now a hole. Small, round, unforgettable. Thomas opened his eyes. He was back. To 2025. To Ronald Reagan Airport. To TSA, Agent Chavez's angry face. But now everyone could understand why he couldn't take off his jacket. Because this wasn't just a jacket. This was a promise, a monument, a promise made to David, a promise made to 134 men. Maria pulled her phone from her pocket. Her fingers moved rapidly across the screen. She found the direct line to the TSA Regional Director, Commander Patricia Hayes, herself a retired Navy officer. This was a protocol violation, but Maria knew she had to make it. "Commander Hayes," her voice on the phone sounded weary. "This better be Santos." "Commander," Maria said, her voice low but urgent, "I'm at Gate 7. Our agents are confronting an elderly veteran. He's wearing an air rescue badge, Vietnam era." There was sudden silence on the other end of the line. "What's his name?" Maria turned to Thomas. "Sir, what's your name?" "Thomas Harlow," the old man replied calmly. Maria repeated into the phone. "Thomas Harlow." A deep breath was heard on the other end of the line. Then Commander Hayes's voice returned, completely changed, no longer weary but raw and urgent. "Maria, keep him there. Nobody touches him. I'm coming." The line went dead. Maria stared at her phone in shock. The commander, was she really coming? From the terminal security office all the way here. Chavez and Rodriguez looked at each other, now completely confused. What was happening? In the TSA Regional Command Center, Commander Patricia Hayes sat at her desk. She had hung up the phone but still held it. Thomas Harlow. That name, she knew that name. Patricia Hayes wasn't just a TSA administrator, she was a retired Navy officer. She had served 28 years, and most importantly, she had a deep interest in Vietnam history. Her doctoral thesis was on rescue operations during the Vietnam War, and in that thesis, one name appeared again and again: Thomas "Ghost" Harlow. Patricia quickly turned to her computer. She logged into a classified military database. She typed the name, Harlow Thomas J. The screen loaded, and there, before her, a file opened. Classified. Eyes only level 5 and above. Name, Thomas James Harlow. Date of birth, June 14, 1941. Service, USAF, Air Rescue Service, 1968 to 1973. Position, Helicopter Rescue Specialist. Mission count, 47 certified rescue missions personnel. Rescued 134 people. Medals: Silver Star 2, Bronze Star 3, Purple Heart 1, Air Force Cross 1. Notes: known by code name Ghost, entered deepest sections of enemy lines, accepted missions with 90% death risk, never refused a rescue mission. As Patricia read the screen, her hands began to tremble. 134 people. This man had saved the lives of 134 people. And now, in her terminal, 2 agents were humiliating him. Patricia stood up. She slammed her desk. "Get my car, now, and get me 2 military police, now. We're going to the terminal." At the terminal, the situation was getting worse. Despite Maria's intervention, Chavez was still defending his position. "Santos, I understand. He's a veteran. I respect that. But procedure is procedure. The jacket must be scanned." "Or what?" Thomas spoke for the first time with a truly harsh tone. "You'll arrest me? Go ahead, do it. But this jacket isn't coming off." Rodriguez, now with impatience, stepped forward. "You're an old man. Maybe you really are confused. Maybe you need a nursing home. Someone needs to take care of you." This was the last straw. Thomas's eyes for a moment flashed with anger, but he didn't speak. He just looked, such a look that Rodriguez took a step back. Maria intervened. "Rodriguez, stop it!" But Chavez had now completely lost control. His pride had overcome his logic. He stepped forward and grabbed Thomas's arm. "Enough," he said. "You're under arrest. You're coming with me." And at that exact moment, the terminal doors opened. Through the doors, a convoy entered. 3 black TSA vehicles. Behind them, 2 military police vehicles. Their sirens were wailing. Their lights were flashing. The terminal instantly fell silent. Hundreds of passengers turned and looked. The vehicles stopped just feet from the security checkpoint. Doors opened. The first to emerge was Commander Patricia Hayes. Her uniform was impeccable. The gold stripes on her shoulders gleamed. Her face wore an expression, cold, hard, angry. Behind her emerged 2 military police officers, then an elderly man, in Air Force uniform, his chest covered with medals. He wore the rank of colonel, a retired colonel. Patricia Hayes walked directly toward Thomas Harlow. She ignored Chavez and Rodriguez. She nodded to Maria, and she stopped in front of Thomas. Her heels came together with a crack, and she rendered the sharpest salute. "Mr. Harlow," she said, her voice echoing throughout the terminal. "Sir, I apologize for the treatment you have received." The old pilot slowly raised his head. He didn't salute back. He was a civilian now, but gave a slight respectful nod. Commander Hayes lowered her salute and turned to her agents. Her voice was low, but filled with fury. "This man," she said, "is not just a pilot. Thomas Harlow flew 47 rescue missions during the Vietnam War. He flew behind enemy lines, into mountains, into hell itself. He saved the lives of 134 men. He was awarded the Silver Star by the President." A gasp escaped from the crowd. Hayes continued. "And that jacket, the one you dismissed, the one you told him to take off. He flew 3 missions under enemy fire in that jacket. There's a bullet hole in the left sleeve. You can see it if you bother to look. It's not just a jacket, it's a monument. And you, sir," her eyes locked on Chavez, "wanted to throw it in the trash." Chavez's face had lost all its color. "Commander, I didn't know." "You didn't need to know," Hayes cut him off, "but you needed to show respect." The elderly Air Force officer approached Thomas. "Tom," he said softly, "come with me. We'll get you there." Thomas nodded quietly. Then, for the first time, he spoke, but not to the agents, to the crowd. "Respect," he said calmly, "isn't a one-way thing. You can't demand it, you earn it. And sometimes the most important people are those wearing the simplest uniforms, or no uniform at all." Chavez stepped forward. His eyes were red. "Mr. Harlow, I made a terrible mistake. I'm sorry." Thomas stopped him. "You apologized, and I accept. But now you've learned something. And that's the most important lesson." And with that, Thomas Harlow, his flight jacket still on his back, walked through the gates. The crowd spontaneously began to applaud. If Thomas Harlow's story moved you, subscribe to Veterans Tales, like this video, share in the comments what this story made you feel. Have you ever experienced something similar? Share it with us in the comments. See you in the next story.